let's bring in our next guest, which is who is someone I'm really excited to talk to. Knows a ton about basketball, a ton about the league. From Hoops Consultants, Mike Procopio, and that is his actual picture on the right. You're gonna see he is a hard-looking dude. Mike, how you doing?
Yeah.
How you doing, guys?
Thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, so let's start by just you sort of telling us about what you do and kind of your role with the players you work with.
Okay. Well, I run a company called the Hoop Consultants. I also work for Tim Grover in Attack Athletics and director of basketball operations. We have a training company in Chicago that we train roughly about 50 NBA players throughout the off season. We work with Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, Juwan Howard, Michael Finley. We've done work with Andre Iguodala, do pre-draft training. We've worked with Rondo. We work with quite a few NBA players, as well as our client would be Kobe Bryant. I work for Kobe throughout the whole year, throughout the basketball season and the off season. So basically, I'll set up a lot of, break down a lot of film on his opponents, break down their weaknesses, especially on their defense. On their offense, try to stay away from that a little bit. That's a team philosophy defensively, and I don't want to really get into that. Offensively, I just tell them the weaknesses that he'll have in their offense, on their defense, and spots on the floor that he could be successful from, as well as mismatches that they'll have on their team, whether it's Paul Gasol or Ron Artest, or something to take advantage of how their defense rotates on certain situations. So we'll have a dialogue every day, and I'll give him a report a few hours before the game, what I think, what I'm looking at, what I'm seeing, and then after the game, we'll talk for about half an hour, 45 minutes, as far as like what we liked, what we didn't like, what I thought could have been done differently, or he did well, and that's it. Just sort of a back and forth, and he'll throw some ideas off me, and that's it.
So does he call Ron Artest meta? What does he refer to him as?
I don't know.
Call him Ron?
We don't really talk about Ron a lot, but usually that will come up like that. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I just wonder, like within the people that he actually knows, it's been an adjustment for everyone in the media and in the public. Anyway, on Kobe, I think what's really interesting is a lot of people would maybe imagine that, being coached is like being coached in high school or in college, where you have your coaching staff and those are the people who you give direction. What role in the NBA sort of ecosystem do coaches like you fill, and why is it important that you don't work for the Lakers?
I don't know how many other players have a guy like me. I'm sure they do. I'm sure there's a few. Most players don't like to be critiqued, and that's the big thing. Like most players, they do what they do, and they don't really want to see criticism, and it's hard for them to face criticism. They're not used to it. And I think what's important in my role is I'm unbiased. I have no bias towards Kobe. I have no bias towards the Lakers. He asked me to be tunnel vision and just to tell him what I see, and that's it. We don't do a lot more talking. I never question decisions made by the coaching staff, offenses or defenses. I tell him what I think he should take advantage of, and that's it. And I think it's important. Guys like me, a lot of people would probably see it as a threat in the sense that, like, what's this guy doing? He has a coaching staff. And listen, the coaching staff, the stuff that I give Kobe, I bet 90% of it he's seen on his scouting report. Maybe I'll see a thing and maybe not. And then I could critique Kobe after every game, and I could say, listen, this is what I think. This is what I think could have been done. And sometimes coaches can't do that all the time. You have your best player, you have your franchise player. You don't want to be talking every day about it, and you obviously want to bring things up that need be, but sometimes you got to let some things go. You got to pick and choose your battles. With me, I really don't have a bias towards it. I just sort of do what I do, and he asked me to, just be honest, and that's what I am.
Right. So it seems like one of the things that I think you're kind of saying in your descriptions here is that one of the things that Kobe has been very lauded for over his career is his ability to add new skills, new dimensions of his game. Um,
Hmm.
is that something like what is that maybe for you one of the defining characteristics of him as a player and why he's become who he is today?
Oh, absolutely. I think if a player is driven the way he is, and not everybody, it doesn't matter if you're driven or as driven as Kobe or not, 95% of the, people who play basketball won't be as good as him anyway. But, that being said, I think it's real, for him, it's important to just keep adding things to his game. It's so good to work with a guy that wants to sort of keep adding things and adding things. And he adds stuff that's in his game. He won't do certain things that he knows that in games he won't be able to do. For him, he wants to do things that are game relevant that he could add that could help his team win. And it's not just to add things to make him a better player, which it is, but he needs to do some different things to help his team win. You never know when there's going to be a trade in the offseason done, like Lamar, and now he needs to pick up some slack where Lamar would have added with some extra scoring or spots on the floor where Lamar was effective. Kobe wants to step in and try to help as much as he can. He's an ultimate team guy as far as wanting to win, and he'll do anything in his power to do that.
Hey Mike, you came up in the world of youth basketball, and it's considered to be somewhat of a sordid world by some. Many people blame NBA problems on the AAUification of the sport. Do you think that there's any reality to that? Do you think that the AAU system and the youth sports system hinders development of our young basketball players, or do you think that's completely overrated?
I think it's overrated. It depends on the program and the coach and what their philosophies are. Of course, like you said, my first job was at 18 years old with a nationally renowned Boston Amateur Basketball Club. It's still a nationally ranked team and has some great players on it. We did things different. We had a system. Everybody had roles. We held players accountable, and we got after guys and we competed. And when they didn't compete, we let them hear about it. Some teams aren't built like that. Some teams are just sort of try to get a player that a bunch of college coaches want to recruit and run a team like that and cater to that player. I think there's definitely some evidence of the AAU basketball being a problem for development in the United States, but I just think I think it's from top to bottom. I think it's in the pros, it's in college, it's in high school. It depends. You got good coaches, you got bad coaches. You got good systems, and you don't have any system. So I think it depends on where they go. It's not all AU basketball. I've had affiliations with Nike for almost 20 years, and they try to strive to be the best they can and try to have be affiliated with people who run great programs and actually hold players accountable. And I think that a player accountability is the number one thing. And it's not just AU basketball; it's players in general. The players are different. The way they see the game. It used to be yes sir, no sir. That's the biggest thing. It used to be yes or no sir. Does what coaches ask him to do, and that's it. Now you got a lot more players that are entitled at a young age, as far as their attitudes, their family life, and a challenge and authority. It's not just the AAU basketball side. The player, the coach. There's a lot of moving parts to this and you slap blame in some different places, but it's not just AAU basketball.